It sees you. Not with X-band microwave pulses bouncing off your fuselage. Not with fire control frequencies that the F-35's radar-absorbing skin was engineered to defeat. It sees you with something older, longer, and fundamentally different. A wavelength so large it doesn't bounce off the aircraft. It resonates through it. The Rezonans-NE Very High Frequency Radar, 8 installations across Iranian territory. Detection range of 1,100 kilometers. 500 simultaneous targets. 4 fixed phased array modules, 360-degree coverage, no rotating antenna, no warm-up time. Russia sold it to Iran in 2015. By 2026, it was feeding track data into an air defense architecture built to exploit the one vulnerability stealth cannot engineer away. On March 19, 2026, at approximately 2:50 a.m. over central Iran, an F-35A made an emergency landing after being struck during a combat mission. The most expensive tactical aircraft in history had been found, in the dark, over hostile territory, by a system Iran paid for with Russian export dollars and a decade of patience. This is the physics behind how that happened. January 2020, the days after the killing of General Soleimani. F-35's operating near Iranian airspace. Alexander Stushilin, deputy CEO of Russia's Resonance Research Center, said this out loud at an international military forum in Moscow. At the beginning of 2020, this radar identified US F-35 planes and tracked them. The radar's personnel were transmitting information, including the routes of F-35 flights, in clear, thus confirming that it was reliably tracking the planes. Not classified, not hinted at. Stated publicly. By the man who built the system. The F-35 costs approximately $100 million per airframe. The Rezonans-NE costs a fraction of that per installation. Iran didn't need to shoot the F-35 in 2020. It needed to prove to itself, and quietly to anyone paying attention, that it could find the aircraft nobody was supposed to be able to find. 6 years later, on March 19, 2026, something found it again. And this time, it fired. Here is the question the $100 million price tag cannot answer. The F-35 was designed around one core promise: radar cannot see it. That promise is true. The engineering is real. In 8,000-plus combat flights during Operation Epic Fury, no F-35 was confirmed shot down by a surface-to-air missile engagement. The stealth works. And Iran found it anyway. Why does a technology that defeats the most advanced fire control radar on the planet fail against a system built on physics that World War II engineers already understood? Because stealth was designed to defeat the weapon that kills you. It was never designed to defeat the sensor that finds you. Those are two completely different problems. Enemy Decoded doesn't sell you headlines. It solves the equation underneath them. If you want to understand why the most expensive aircraft in history has a vulnerability that a 1940s physics textbook already predicted, you're in the right place. Iran did not try to defeat F-35 stealth. That framing misses the strategy entirely. Iran built a layered architecture that bypasses the entire question of whether stealth works. The Rezonans-NE is not a fire control radar. It cannot guide a missile to an intercept. It does something more valuable. It tells Iranian air defense commanders exactly where the F-35 is, what direction it is flying, and which corridor it will transit next, without emitting a single frequency the F-35's radar warning receiver is designed to detect. The F-35's AN/ALR 94 electronic warfare system detects incoming radar emissions, alerts the pilot, and geolocates the emitter. Against X-band fire control radar, the F-35 receives warning before the engagement cycle completes. It maneuvers. It departs the threat envelope. Against the Rezonans-NE, the radar warning receiver receives nothing. Because the Rezonans-NE is not targeting the aircraft. It is tracking it. No fire control illumination means no warning signal. The aircraft continues on its planned route. Predictably, through the sector the VHF radar has been watching for hours. Iran's total investment: 8 installations at $30 to $50 million each. $200 to $400 million total. Against the aircraft they track: $100 million each. Iran breaks even with damage to the first aircraft the queued data finds. Detection hands the corridor to a passive infrared system. Passive IR doesn't use radar. The F-35's warning receiver hears nothing. Two components that individually cannot close the engagement. Together, they can. The obvious solution: fly a different route. If you know where the installations are, plan around their coverage sectors. Except there are 8 of them, with overlapping 360-degree coverage across the entire Iranian theater. Flying around all 8 while simultaneously striking hardened targets across a country the size of Iran is not an airspace planning problem. It is a geometry impossibility. The second solution: destroy the installations first. The US and Israel struck Iranian radar sites in the opening hours of epic fury. Battle damage showed one Rezonans-NE site hit. IFF radar destroyed. Control hut damaged. The azimuth receiver arrays were relatively intact. And days later, a Russian AN-124 heavy transport arrived in Iran, almost certainly carrying replacement parts. The Rezonans-NE is modular, containerized, 4 independent antenna modules. Replacing a damaged component requires a cargo flight from Moscow, not a rebuild. Russia ensured the maintenance logistics chain was as survivable as the radar architecture itself. The third solution: go electronically silent. No radar, no data link, no radio. But you cannot turn off jet engines. The GE F-135 burns JP-8 at temperatures no stealth coding addresses. Stealth reduces radar cross-section, not thermodynamic emission. The exhaust is hot. A passive infrared sensor that emits nothing. No radar, no laser, nothing the AN/ALR-94 detects. Tracks that heat from kilometers away. On March 14th, 5 days before the F-35 incident, a Chinese social media account posted a detailed tutorial. Position passive IR systems along predicted F-35 corridors, identified by VHF radar track data. Engage from the rear quarter where engine heat concentration is highest. Fire before any radar emission gives warning. It was called prophetic in Chinese online communities 5 days later. Here is what March 19th actually validated. And it is bigger than one damaged aircraft. The incident demonstrated a complete kill chain operating entirely outside the electromagnetic spectrum stealth was designed to dominate. VHF detection without fire control. Passive IR targeting without radar illumination. An engagement executed in complete electronic silence from the defender's side. This is the architecture Russia has been exporting for a decade. China's JY-27A and JY-27V VHF radars operate on identical physics to the Rezonans-NE embedded in the anti-access architecture facing Taiwan. The same passive IR intercept doctrine published for Iranian use on March 14th is the framework Chinese air defense planners have been developing for the Pacific. March 19th, Combat validated it for the first time. The unexpected answer is not a better stealth aircraft. It is a doctrine that removes the penetrating aircraft from the equation entirely. A B-52 launching from outside Iranian airspace can put 16 JASSMER rounds on 16 targets without a single pilot entering the VHF detection envelope. The Rezonans-NE never sees a target it can cue. The F-47, designated publicly in February 2026, was designed from a blank sheet with VHF detection as a foundational requirement, not an afterthought. The F-35 was designed to defeat fire control radar. The F-47 was designed knowing the silent kill chain already works. March 19th did not prove stealth is dead. It proved the stealth paradigm the F-35 was built around is insufficient for one specific threat environment. The U.S. answer is already in production. The question is whether it arrives in time. Or, like so many American defense programs, one war too late. The EA-18G Growler does not penetrate defended airspace, it suppresses it. Operating at standoff, it jams the data networks connecting the Rezonans-NE detection layer to the passive IR systems it cues. Detection without the cueing handoff is just surveillance. A passive IR system without a corridor to watch is a sensor staring at empty sky. Space-based infrared surveillance can detect a Rezonans-NE installation's power signature and communication emissions before it ever tracks a U.S. aircraft. That location data feeds targeting coordinates for standoff strikes. Every component of the silent kill chain generates a signature that a different sensor, on a different platform, in a different domain, can see. The silent kill chain works against a single F-35 entering a defended corridor alone. It struggles against a system that jams the handoff, destroys the installation with standoff weapons, and never sends the aircraft in without first mapping the architecture waiting for it. The U.S. answer is not one aircraft with better stealth. It is a kill web. Multiple platforms, multiple domains, no single point the Rezonans-NE can find, cue, and hand off in time. Russia and Iran calculated that they had a working kill chain. They were right. What they miscalculated was what using it would cost them strategically. Every time the Rezonans-NE tracked a U.S. aircraft between 2020 and 2026, it also transmitted its own operational parameters to NSA signals intelligence collection assets. The frequency ranges, the pulse intervals, the power output, the data handoff protocols. 6 years of operational sorties was 6 years of detailed radar characterization handed to American signals intelligence for free every time Iran turned the system on. Combat employment on March 19th did not reveal a secret. It confirmed a model the U.S. had already built. The Chinese tutorial published 5 days earlier compounded the miscalculation. Its effect was to hand U.S. analysts a precise doctrinal roadmap before the engagement happened. American analysts did not have to reverse engineer March 19th. The method was published in advance. The aftermath confirmed the model. The March 19th incident is not fully attributed. Not publicly, and probably not privately either. CENTCOM confirmed that an F-35A made an emergency landing after being struck. It did not confirm the weapon, the detection method, or the kill chain. The attribution to Rezonans-NE plus passive IR intercept is analytical. Built from open-source signals, the Chinese tutorial, Iranian air defense architecture, and the physics of what can and cannot detect a stealth aircraft. It is the most coherent explanation available. It is not a confirmed account. The passive IR inventory Iran actually had operational on March 19th. The number of systems, their positioning, their reliability against a maneuvering aircraft employing countermeasures, is not publicly known. The tutorial described a method. Whether Iran had the hardware to execute it reliably on that specific night remains an open question. Enemy Decoded works from open-source intelligence. On March 19th, the most analytically sound conclusion carries the most uncertainty. That is not a failure of analysis. That is the honest condition of assessing covert military operations in real time. It still sees you, not just over Iran. The JY-27A and JY-27V, China's equivalent, identical physics, are embedded in the anti-access architecture facing Taiwan. The combat-validated kill chain tested over central Iran on March 19, 2026, is the doctrinal template for any future conflict where a U.S. stealth aircraft enters a corridor that a VHF radar is watching. Three things are now simultaneously true. The F-35's stealth works. The Rezonans-NE found it anyway. And the kill chain that connected those two facts is already deployed in the Pacific. Enemy Decoded explains what the press briefing won't.